On the news, federal government meet labor leaders on implementation of new minimum wage. Nigerian Army destroy Boko Haram meeting center in Borno State. And Spain arrests Catalan leader. Hello and welcome to News Now. I am Fidelia Agoncha. Leaders of the organized labor movement have met with the federal government on the implementation of the new 30,000 naira minimum wage and the consequential adjustment of salaries for civil servants. The meeting is coming 2 days to the deadline issued by the labor leaders, who have threatened to embark on an indefinite strike if their demands are not met on or before October 16. Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, who presided over the meeting, described the gathering as an information-sharing one which flows from the previous meeting between the government and the labor leaders. Ngige announced that there would be another meeting with heads of government agencies and parastatals where their books will be open for scrutiny to see what amount can actually be paid to workers. The meeting will hold on Tuesday. Now, in April 2019, President Muhammadu Buhari assented to the Minimum Wage Act of 2019, but 6 months later, the law is yet to be implemented. Meanwhile, the federal government has expressed concerns over the rising unemployment rate in the country, saying over 15 million Nigerians are looking for white-collar jobs. Minister of Employment and Labour, Chris Ngige, who announced this, said a growing rate of unemployment has given rise to a lot of antisocial behavior. Ngige further stressed that insurgency, civil unrest, and banditry are symptoms of unemployment in Nigeria, saying the situation has made some people desperate and frustrated. He, however, assured that the government will continue to fashion out new ways and means to deal with unemployment in the country. Amnesty International has identified 119 Nigerians among a total of 1,281 persons sentenced to death in Malaysia. The group gave the figure in its report titled "Fatally Flawed: Why Malaysia Must Abolish the Death Penalty." It said the 1,281 death row inmates were being kept in 26 detention facilities across Malaysia. The AI report said the 119 Nigerians were convicted of hard drug-related offenses. In Malaysia, 33 offenses are punished with a death sentence. Well, to security now, the Nigerian Air Force says it has decimated a location used by the Boko Haram terrorist sect as a meeting venue at Boboshi area on the fringe of the Sambisa forest in Borno State. Air Force spokesperson Air Commodore Ibikunle Daramola, in a statement, said the strike was carried out by the Air Task Force of Operation Lafia Adole. Daramola noted that their attack was executed after days of intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance missions coupled with human intelligence report. He says the building was being used as a rendezvous point by the insurgents, where their commanders assemble to take instructions before launching attacks against military troops and innocent civilians. The development is coming days after the arrest of 10 Boko Haram commanders in Borno State, northeast Nigeria. Well, the families of 2 men killed by police officers in Lagos have petitioned the Attorney General of the Federation against the Directorate of Public Prosecution in Lagos State. At a press briefing on Monday, the families of the deceased kicked against the release of the police officers who have been dismissed by the police force. They are also demanding the release of the bodies of the victims. Shegun Shulaja and Ogenovo Ebobo were killed on Monday, August 19, by 2 police officers in Lagos State. State government and estate developers are to blame for the flood which have recently affected different parts of the country. Clement Nze, Director General of the Nigeria Hydrological Services Agency, NIHSA, said this on Monday while addressing journalists. Nze alleged that state government and agencies have repeatedly failed to set up measures to proactively address flooding when they make predictions. They also blamed flooding on poor urban planning and lack of drainages. He warned that states located within the coastal region need to put up extra measures to prevent flooding, adding that coastal flooding will occur from time to time in places like Lagos, Ondo, and Bayelsa State, the Hydrological Agency had predicted that no fewer than 74 local government areas in 30 states in Nigeria would experience severe flooding in June, July, August, and September. They also warned that 279 local government areas would experience minimum flooding across the country in that period. Well, Lagos State government has declared a state of emergency on various dilapidated highways and carriages within the state. On Sunday, the Lagos State House in Marina, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu ordered massive construction work on critical roads and highways across the state, beginning from Monday. The governor's directive followed the conclusion of a series of meetings with 8 multinational engineering firms, which began a few weeks back. After his final meeting with the contractors on Sunday, which lasted for about 3 hours, Sanwo-Olu declared the commencement of major construction works on the identified highways considered critical to the reduction of traffic congestion in the state. The government said all the 8 engineering firms had been given the mandate to immediately mobilize their equipment on the site and commence major construction works on the identified roads, and Special Advisor on Works and Infrastructure, Aramide Adeoye, listed some of the critical highways and roads to be constructed, to include Ojota stretch of the Ikorodu Road, motorways Kudirat Abiola Way, Akpogbon Highway, Babs Animation Road, Agric Ishawa Road, and Ijede Road in Ikorodu, and Lekki Expressway from Abraham Adesoya to Eleko Junction. Award-winning writer Chimamanda Adichie says at the 2019 edition of the Collaboration Symposium known as the Fela Debate at the NECA Event Center, Ikeja Central Business District, Alausa, Ikeja, and the topic Teacher Don't Teach Me Nonsense was derived from one of Fela's hit songs of the same title. Also at the symposium were Kingsley Dale, popularly known as Akala, and Robert Sentamu, with author Sefiata as moderators. The symposium is a segment of the famous Collaboration Festival designed to intellectualize the Fela ideals and ideas.
What are my thoughts on the present political landscape? How much time do we have? No, actually, what what has been occupying my mind lately has been the flooding in Lagos. So I live in an estate where yesterday we had to swim, pretty much. Our cars had to swim. And, and I'm thinking I should invest in a boat. But it made me think about, honestly, it made me think about leadership in this country. And many of us have talked about leadership. But also the way that we think in general in this country. We don't, and maybe it's connected to our not being particularly adept at history. So we're not long-term thinkers. You know, there's something very short-term about the way things are arranged in this country. So I drink a lot of this bottled water, but lately I felt very guilty because in my estate I saw that the pile of rubbish was mostly this, and then the takeaway packs that you get from, you know, KFC or whatever. And those things clog the drains, which is partly why this flooding is happening. And it just made me think, what does it take? What does it take to clean this up? It takes nothing.
Minister of State for Federal Capital Territory Ramatu Tijani has urged religious and community leaders to prioritize the rights of the girl child and women. Tijani made the appeal while speaking at an event organized by the United Nations Children's Fund, UNICEF, and other partners to mark the 2019 International Day of the Girl Child. This next report has more.
Young girls across the globe are celebrated yearly on October 11 as forces for change. The International Day of the Girl Child is set aside by the United Nations to promote the rights of girls and address their unique challenges. Stakeholders in Nigeria are not left out of the celebration, as they called on all and sundry to give the girl child necessary support to break all barriers in order to reach their full potentials.
Towards achieving a change of attitude towards the girl child's education and empowerment, all hands must be on deck. As parents, teachers, religious leaders, community leaders, non-governmental organization leaders, for we do have roles to play in this critical issue.
I have seen girls breaking barrier that goes beyond the capacity of many persons, fighting for inclusion in development from all fronts of life through girls' movements such as Girls Force and G for G, Girls for Girls. In Nigeria, to raise the voice to stop child marriage, promote self-esteem, girls' education, and for them to remain in school, learning life skills and standing for their right to achieve their life dreams.
Other stakeholders present charged the government to introduce laws that punish perpetrators of heinous crimes against the girl child. They say young girls should be supported by everyone who cares about human rights and a sustainable future.
This year, we want to talk about, highlight these issues to make sure that probably policies that have been put down to support people that have been victims of this kind of act, you know, like those kind of people, they need therapy. Nigerians, I know we don't believe in all these things, but to be honest, these kinds of things, because I feel like as a young girl, you're even made not to be able to talk about this kind of experience, and then you carry it and grow with it, you know, into your marriage, and it affects you at the end of the day.
The challenges we face in our school and community include gender discrimination of preparing boys to girls, lack of facilities in our schools like separate toilets for girls, female teachers as role models, issues of insecurity. Girls are raped every day in Nigeria. They are abused in all ways like child labor, trafficking, early marriage, and this is affecting us. I call on the federal government of insist that states respect the child protection laws, especially on rape and education.
Efforts to empower girls around the world were reinforced in this year's celebration through the announcement of a multi-year partnership between UNICEF and a luxury skincare brand to support the agency's gender equality program. The beauty brand pledged the world's largest contribution of $8.7 million to fund the initiative, which will reach some 6.5 million girls through programs in empowerment, employment, and education. Oyin Adekunle, TV360, Nigeria.
Well, there is a gender imbalance in the world, but this imbalance is probably more prevalent in the sciences. More than ever before, however, females are daring to close the gap by venturing into the engineering field. This next report has more.
These ladies are more like a rare species. They're in the top 12% of female engineers at Andela, in the top 7% of women engineers in Nigeria, and in the top 12% globally. They are defying societal norms and clearing doubts about their abilities by pursuing careers in the male-dominated field of engineering.
I also remember one of my friends, then friends, telling me that he would actually die the day he sees me write code for an actual company. Yeah, so this is what that did for me. I was angry initially, but then I turned that anger into motivation, and I wanted to prove him wrong. And I've been doing that all these years.
A major factor fueling this phenomenon is a societal stereotype that some careers are just not cut out for women.
When I finished school, everyone was quick to suggest, okay, why don't you take a catering course or go to a tailoring school? And not that those are bad choices, but whenever I think about those things these days, I think to myself, what about, you know, other career choices, other career paths like DevOps, what I do, like machine learning, cloud architecture. These are all valid paths that a lady can take, but society has placed a limitation or a stereotype that, you know, there are these feminine career paths that a lady should pursue.
Gender imbalance in engineering also has its roots in the low enrollment of women in science, technology, engineering and mathematics subjects, also known as STEM. President of the Association of Professional Women Engineers of Nigeria, APWEN, says more females would blaze trails in science if they are introduced to STEM from the primary education level.
We've identified the gap that not so many of the female read engineering to start with. And to encourage the women to read engineering, we have to first of all encourage them to do what? to read STEM, to be real STEM subject, that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. If you don't get them to read STEM, to be interested in STEM subjects in lower classes, you can never produce engineers in future.
If the gender gap is to close soon, the onus is also on tech firms to hire and nurture more female engineers, like what Andela's doing with its all-female cycle.
This program is pretty much one that allows a cycle for just female, us actually calling out, this call application actually goes out and then says, oh, we're hiring just female for this particular cycle, as the case is.
A 2018 World Economic Forum report says it will take 108 years to achieve gender parity. But with steps like marketing STEM to girls and changing societal mindsets that girls can be anything they want to be, it will only be a matter of time before women close the gap. Anetta Felix, TV360, Nigeria.
Well, the families of 2 men killed by police officers in Lagos have petitioned the Attorney General of the Federation against the Directorate of Public Prosecution in Lagos State. At a press briefing on Monday, the families of the deceased kicked against the release of the police officers who have been dismissed by the force. They are also demanding the release of the bodies of the victims. Segun Sholaja and Ogenovo Ebobo were killed on Monday, August 19 by 2 police officers in Lagos State.
If the police that charge their own very men to court, they are the very institution that came in contact with these criminal suspects, that is the 4 policemen, that same police found them guilty and dismissed them and charged them to court. DPP is now saying upon the facts, are these facts different from the facts that the police know? And if it is different, why? These are the questions that any responsible DPP, Directorate of Public Prosecution, will ask. To avoid any chance at obtrusiveness, the proper query is what we are asking now. Why did the police, in the light of the case file, arrive at a decision upon the orderly room trial to find the defendants culpable of extrajudicial killing, if indeed the facts in quote of the contents of the case file are true and real? Then why did the Office of the Public Relations Officer of the Lagos, that's the PPRO, Lagos State Police Command, maintain consistently all through the saga the stance that their officers went beyond their lawful and proper duty in handling the case of the deceased Segun Sholaja and Ayodele Sholaja and Ogenovo Ebobo?
Are you going to kill him and you will deny him his own birthright? It's right. It deserves befitting burial. It's a right. Are you going to deny him that? Where is his body? Where are their body?
For news now, we'll continue in just a moment. Don't go away.
The 14th Wale Soyinka Award for Investigative Reporting is open for entries. Wale Soyinka Center for Investigative Journalism hereby calls for submissions from full-time or freelancing Nigerian investigative journalists whose works border on regulatory failures, corruption in public and corporate sectors, or human rights abuses in Nigeria, and published between 4th October 2018 and 3rd October 2019. Award categories: print, radio, television, photo, online and editorial cartoon. Deadline: Thursday 24th October 2019 by 4 p.m. Winners will receive cash prizes and more worth 1 million naira. Other finalists will also be rewarded. To apply, please visit www.wscij.org/2019 award. For more information, call 0908 251 5179 or email wscij@wscij.org.
Welcome back. Let's now join Oyin Adekunle for news and business. Hello, Oyin.
Hi, Fidelia.
So could you bring us up to speed with the latest in business?
Well, the Nigerian Customs Service (NCS) says no item can be imported or exported through the nation's land borders. Controller General of NCS Hamid Ali said this at a press conference in Abuja on Monday. He said the measure would enable security agencies to be able to scan the goods entering the country. Ali says for now, goods can only enter the country through the air and sea ports, where they can undergo thorough scanning and certified fit for consumption. He insisted that despite the rights for movement of persons, there must also be primacy of security over such rights. Meanwhile, Niger Republic has also banned the exportation of rice to Nigeria following the closure of the nation's borders. And the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timothy Silva, has confirmed the discovery of oil in commercial quantity in the northeast region of Nigeria. Silva announced this while briefing State House correspondents on Monday when he appeared at a public hearing by Senate Joint Committee on Petroleum, Finance, Gas and Judiciary. Silva noted that Nigeria did not add more than 500 million barrels of proven oil reserves in a little over 10 years. He said apart from this period under 1998 and 2007, when it recorded a phenomenal rise in crude oil reserves, which rose from 22.5 billion to 37.5 billion barrels, that the country has since experienced serious depletion of our reserves.
We want to do it differently this time around. We want to see a situation where the legislature and the executive work very, very closely to have a PIB that will ensure that we attract investments into the oil and gas sector in Nigeria. An investment climate that will be competitive. We know we have other countries who have this product, and therefore we have to be competitive. We have to have an environment where businesses make profit. This is a journey that involves everyone. We want both government, and that includes the legislature and the executive on one hand, and the IOCs to work together to ensure that this environment we are trying to create is an environment that will work for all of us.
From 1999 to about 2007, we grew our reserves from about 22 billion barrels to 37.5 billion barrels. You can see that there was an exponential growth between 1999 and 2007. Since 2007 to 2019, our reserves stand at about 37.5 billion barrels. That means we have grown our reserves within a period of over 10 years by just 500 million barrels. So I am happy today that there is a growing national consensus that we must clear the regulatory environment in the oil industry. The National Assembly is on the same page as the executive.
Interstellar Communications Limited has threatened to take over assets belonging to the Central Bank of Nigeria following its failure to obey a court ruling ordering it to pay the company the sum of $260 million. At a press conference in Lagos, the group accused the Apex Bank of failing to comply with the Supreme Court's order, which was awarded in December 2017. The group says following the expiration of the September 16 ultimatum given to the CBN, it will now be forced to take over some of the assets of the central bank.
The judgment creditors have repeatedly appealed in writing to the Central Bank of Nigeria and the federal government of Nigeria to pay the judgment debt, now left with no choice than to proceed with all enforcement options provided by the law. The Honorable Attorney General of the Federation of Nigeria, who as the Chief Law Officer of the Federation is the only statutory and constitutionally empowered entity to advise and guide the federal government on legal matters, had written more than once to the presidency and strongly advised that the federal government and central bank should comply with the said judgment of the Supreme Court.
Now we'll review activities on the stock market after this break. Please stay tuned. The new week begins with a bullish trend at the Nigerian stock market, the first day of gains after 9 straight days of decline. Crucial market indicators, that is the all-share index, which opened at 26,533 basis points, appreciated by 0.09% to close at 26,557 basis points, while the market capitalization of all listed equities equally gained some 12 billion naira to also close at 12.928 trillion naira today. And in total, we see that market summary today, over 129 million shares exchanged hands in 2,595 deals, and that summed up to about 2.7 billion naira. And then we see that leading the pack of gainers today, we see that the performance of some large and medium capitalized stocks impacted the gains in the market. And of course, Dangote Flour and Dangote Cement leading the top gainers today. Dangote Flour with a 3.60% rise, and followed by, of course, another subsidiary, Dangote Cement. And then we also have Fitson Healthcare PLC and UBA leading the gainers chart, of course. But on the flip side, to the stocks that didn't quite perform well today, USCN, we see that USCN, yes, is closing in the red today with a decline of 6.99%, as well as Global Spectrum Energy Services, EcoBank, and First Bank Nigeria Holdings from the financial services sector also underperformed. And when we cross over to the global scene, FTSE closed in the red, 0.46% decline. Actually, FTSE finished lower on Brexit deadlock. Yes, that's it. That's the reason why FTSE closed lower today. And of course, Dow Jones, on the other hand, is closing in the greens amid Chinese data. Asian market is unchanged as markets remain closed to observe the Health Sports Day. So that's pretty much everything from here. Fidelia, it's back to you.
Thank you, Oyin, for that update. Let's now move to the foreign scene. Spain's Supreme Court has sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders between 9 and 13 years in prison for sedition over their role in the 2017 independence referendum. The longest serving of 13 years was handed to Oriol Junqueras, the former vice president of Catalonia and the highest-ranking pro-independence leader, on trial. 3 other defendants were also found guilty of disobedience and fined, but will not serve prison sentences. In addition, a new arrest warrant was issued to former Catalan president Carles Puigdemont, who fled to Belgium in the wake of the political crisis. Responding to the verdict, Catalan independence supporters have embarked on massive protests across Barcelona. The Catalan National Assembly also called for mobilization around the globe, including in the UK, France, and Germany. Former AS Roma coach Rudy Garcia has been appointed manager of League One club Olympique Lyonnais. Confirming this, Lyon said in a statement that Garcia has signed a contract until 2021 and he will start coaching the club today. The 55-year-old replaces Brazilian Silvino, who was sacked last week after Lyon failed to win in League One since their 2 opening victories this season. In 2011, Garcia was voted the best coach in the league after he guided Lille to the title and France Cup double. And that's it on news now. Many thanks for joining us. I am Fidelia Aguncha. Bye for now.